What skills do you have as a small business and as an individual when it comes to managing your money? Let's answer that question. Joining us right here in the studio to help us with this conversation, it is Wahome Ngari, who's a renowned financial expert, but also one of the founders of Citadel Solutions as well. Let me actually begin from there. It's a lot of titles. Wahome Ngari, how are you doing?
I'm quite well, and thank you for having me here. Delighted to be with you as we look up into business.
Fantastic. Let's begin like this. You come in different titles. Let's begin with Citadel Consulting Limited. Who are you? What do you do?
Citadel Consulting is a Kenyan registered consulting firm.
Yes.
We actually, in that space, we're working with businesses. We work with financial service providers, and we actually experts in distribution of retail products. So with the companies we work with, we've been doing this for the last 14 years. We are very good in helping them to build the capacity of their sales team, in training, in management, in incentives. We also do talent search, just getting the right people, the management, the general managers, the MDs, and we also do consulting just to make sure the systems are working. We've had the privilege to do this in Kenya, in Uganda, in Rwanda, in South Sudan, in Tanzania. So we work around the region and occasionally even in West Africa.
Pretty much. Now, on to exactly what we're talking about here. You also come in as one of the founders of the Financial Literacy Academy. Can we talk about that?
Yes. I started the Personal Finance Academy 7 years back.
Yes.
Working in the financial services, you get to know something interesting, that people actually make money and they find themselves in more problems than they had before the money came. And so, again, you look at the needs of the people and you see the things, even at a personal level, you make mistakes. And so we started the academy because people seem to need to be helped so that they can actually manage their resources much better. And so we do this in various ways. We have structured financial literacy programs.
Yes.
We have the Wealth Creation Masterclass, a 10-week program that has built a lot of people. I think now we're running about season 36 and we've been running it. We work with corporates because they are new employees who are coming into the workplace and they need to be helped. Because interestingly, money is not one of the things we learned in school or college. There are people who are nearing retirement and they need to actually be able to face their finances in retirement.
Yes.
And also happens there are people who get retrenched. So we work with corporates. We work with cooperative societies, SACCOs. They have education days and they need somebody who is going to come and help people to even know how to utilize the SACCO and the loans in the SACCO to better their lives. We work with pension funds because they want to educate their members on how they need to prepare for retirement. We work with churches. We work with youth groups. We work even with chairmans and investment clubs. So we give talks and we also work with the individuals one-on-one at a personal level. I'm a coach, so I'll actually sit with an individual and we'll work around their personal finances in a coaching methodology.
Pretty much.
Yes.
Let's begin this conversation on money management skills from this perspective.
Yes.
Financial literacy, because we do know that's where money management skills fall.
Yes.
Could you give me the state of financial literacy in the country, Wahome Ngari?
I think there hasn't been any formal research that we can actually say this is where we are. But we can see the signs and the symptoms. When you have 14 million people on CRB, it tells you there's something people are not understanding about how to manage their money.
Yes.
So because it's not formally taught in school, it's not taught in colleges, people learn it maybe the hard way. So we do not know what the state is. But from my interaction with a lot of people, professional people, business people, young couples, young professionals, this is an area where people need a lot of help. And when you look at the countries that are fairly well advanced, when you look at Singapore, when you look at South Korea, financial literacy is something you do in school. In half of the American states now, they have made it compulsory that when you're in school, you must have some financial literacy programs because these are life skills.
Yes.
Everybody deals with money, and the money is a system. And if you don't understand the system, you'll have issues. Just think about driving. Suppose we were all on the road without going to driving school. What would be happening? You know, just because you go to driving school and you learn how to drive, you understand the highway code and what happens. So when the driver in front of you issues a signal, you have an idea what they are communicating to you. When you're driving on the highway and you find some twigs, you have an idea. When you're driving and you see a completely yellow unbroken line, you have an idea what it is talking about. It's the same thing in the manual world. If you do not have the skills, you continuously keep making mistakes. And so financial literacy is very, very key, yes. But the state is not great in our country, even though there's not been a formal research.
Yes. Yeah. But you think that we'll be talking about a different scenario if we maybe thought about introducing it into our school curriculums?
Oh, for sure, for yes. sure, for sure. If you think about it for all of us, when yes. did we open our first bank account? Long after we had left school. We didn't even have an idea. I mean, nowadays things are interesting because we can borrow on our phone long before we even understand how loans work, what's the cost of money and all those things. So if we learned these things earlier in life, it would be much better. They teach us things about nutrition in school, and I think that helps us in our life. Yes. You know, we learn some of the other skills in school, and it helps us a lot in our life. So if we got this thing taught early, I think for a lot of people will not make the many mistakes that we find people making every now and then.
Pretty much. Let's then tackle it down to some of the basics of money management. In fact, today I just want to speak to that individual who just understand the basics of money management. Are there the basics of money management, or that's just a whole lot of things that somebody has to understand?
They are basics. Yes. And again, I like going to driving. You know, when you go to the driving school, you start on the table and you actually do that. You rationalize. You go to the signs and you know the signs. You actually then go to the car and you see the car, and the next they take you on the road and they have somebody with you, and eventually one day you'll be on the road alone and you have succeeded. Yes. So when you're thinking about money management, like I said, this is not a formal lesson in school. There are people very lucky that they learn from their parents. Okay. But there's a whole host of people who don't learn from their parents. Where do they learn from? What we call the University of Life. Yes. You know, as you grow, you get to know things. There are people who actually learn it in the College of Hard Knocks. You know that place where you make mistakes? And you actually realize because of the mistakes you've done? Because the range of the things that we need to learn are big. One, there's a whole thing we need to learn about making money and how to actually increase the money that we're making. That's a whole topic that we can have. How do you actually make more money in whatever you're doing? But when you make the money, you also need to manage the money. In money management, there are a lot of things. You know, things like budgeting in there, things like planning. You have many things you can plan for this week and next week, but there are things that will come many days from now. If you think about it, everybody starts working. If they are granted life, one day they will have to retire. And so you're going to think about retirement well before it comes and plan for it, because you do not want to get to that point and you have no idea. If you have children and you pray for them and they do the right things, you want them to go to college. And so it requires that you actually understand education planning so that you prepare for that. If you want to be a homeowner, one day you want to live in your own place, it's an expensive exercise and you need to do a lot of planning because there are a lot of issues that are used. So there's a lot of planning things that need to be done. As you're doing all those things in planning, in money management, you need to understand credit. Yes. And how to borrow and what to consider. What's the cost of money as you're borrowing? What are the sources of money? Which source is better than which source? Yes. When do I actually borrow on my phone? And when do I desist borrowing on my phone to actually borrow from the cooperative or some other organization? Yes. So there's a whole of that. There are issues around the risk management. Okay, yes, I own this house. Yes, I own this car. Yes, I own this business. But you know, risks, water, fire, theft, we need to manage. There are also obligations placed on us by law. If you have hired employees, there are things you need to take care of them, and you might have to take things like insurance around that. So when you look at the whole thing, you can see it's very rich. There are very many things, and so there are basics in there that we can actually be able to learn. Yes.
I've met individuals and businesses alike who are saying, well, nowadays we don't need to know so much about money management skills. We do have tools available vis-a-vis having the actual knowledge of managing your money. Which is which?
We're living in a life of a lot of automation. Yes. You know, we automated the car. Now we don't have to do gear 2, gear 3, gear 4. But can you actually be on the road driving that car if you don't know how to drive? No way.
No.
So you actually need to have the knowledge so that you can be able to optimize the tools. And the tools are very important that you have to do. There are a lot of financial tools, but if you don't understand the basics, they will not be very helpful to you. You know, in the world of computer, they say garbage in, garbage out. So, but you actually need to understand how to use the tools so that they can be helpful to you. It's very important that we understand the tools and we understand what the tools can do for us, but we need a basic knowledge.
Yes, pretty much.
Yeah.
Somebody asked me this question, that sometimes I budget, but once you budget, you come to realize that indeed, this budget that I put together on paper, it should exactly work, and I can look at it, I'm saying it's feasible, but then once I get into the expenditure now, that's when the problem starts.
Yeah.
Is that a problem with the budgeting itself, or it could be a disciplinary issue when it comes to sticking to the budget?
A combination of both.
Yes.
Because budgeting is not abstract. I cannot wake up in the middle of the month or say next month I'll spend 10,000 for transport. On what basis? I can't pluck numbers from there and put it in there. So the budgeting process is something we need to understand. Corporates do it, government do it. If you think about government, actually, you know, budgeting isn't done in July. Budgeting starts in August, and they do it for a whole year. How do we do budgeting? Budgeting has very, very simple steps. The number one, we need to know what revenues are we talking about. Whether it's a business, whether it's an individual, what monies am I talking about? I have a salary, I have a dividend, I have this thing that I'm expecting. So you must be very clear on what money you are managing.
Yes.
So you must keep a record, or you must take an account, or you must anticipate what money you're going to work with. The number two thing is you must be very clear on what your expenses are. And one of the easiest ways of budgeting is actually making sure you keep a complete track of your expenses so that you're very clear. How much did I spend to feed myself, to clothe myself, to pay my airtime, to pay my travel or whatever last month? Because it's an indication of what you're going to do in the next month.
Yes.
If you keep that complete record, and you actually are able to organize things in clusters that are related. So when you're thinking about transport, if you have a car, you're thinking about the fuel and the service and the parking and the car wash and the insurance and everything. You can actually be able now at the end of the month to put it together and say, am I spending the right amount in my transport?
Yes.
And you might actually find maybe at a business level or at a family level, there are things you can adjust. I'm hitting traffic when it's very heavy. Can I wake up earlier? Would that not help me to spend maybe less in fueling the car?
Yes.
Or maybe we have 3-4 cars in the family and we're actually not using it. Do we need them? Or the children are using a bus to go to school and I'm using my car on the same route. If I drop them, can I make a saving? So you have clarity of where the money is going,
yes,
what you can reduce and what you can't reduce. When you're coming into the next month, it is going to be informed by that experience that I have actually going to do this adjustment so that I can actually be able to run the next month. Now, with the figures from my experience, if I run it one more month and I actually keep a record, can you see rolling over time, you'll be very clear what your budget is?
That's it.
And you can actually see what are the enemies of your budget. Discipline can be part of your enemy. Yes, you allocated this money and you say this money was going to be for X, but along the way, you actually almost forgot or you got into something else because we all have our own weaknesses. There are
yes,
people who actually have impulse buying as a big weakness because
yes,
every time they see a shoe, the shoe actually seems to know their name. They see a new thing, it seems to know their name.
Yes.
So you can actually work around in that discipline area. And that's why maybe as part of your budget, you have actually a smaller pocket or some allowance that you give to yourself, miscellaneous, whatever comes up, because you may not have seen everything that comes up. So budgeting is a whole process. It's something that we need to learn. And once you know how to work with it, then you can easily be able to optimize and work with it, and it's going to better things. And that's why we are planning ahead. That even as I budget today, I want to go for a holiday and I can actually start doing the savings now. My child will be going to college 10 years from now and I can actually start saving the money now. I will retire in the next 30, 40 years and I can actually start doing the saving now. Because I'm clear what the monies are, I can actually put it now in my tool. The tool you mentioned about budgeting, so I'm very clear, this is my income, this is my expenses, I put it in the tool and it's going to tell me what to do. And you know, by the next month, it can even tell me where the variance variance is. What happened? Why is this variance? Is it something I didn't think about? So that in the coming month, then I can think about it, because circumstances happen, life changes, you know, life happens, and as life happens, we need to keep changing what we are doing in our money management.
Pretty much.
Yes.
So let's talk about your academy, especially if a smaller business then approaches you, so you can actually get to teach them on money management skills as a smaller business. Does it take the same time as it would take an individual's coming to you for money management skills, or those modules when it comes to training are different? And what do they expect when they approach you?
We normally like dealing with the individuals, because the business is run by the individual.
Yes.
If you understand budgeting, how you budget at the personal level is how you budget for the small business, is how you budget for the big business.
Yes.
The process is always the same. So if you understand it, so we like saying it's actually called personal finance, not even business finance, so that you can actually understand things from a personal level. And once you're able to do things at a personal level, you will easily do it for the business. And that's why we have different programs for individuals, depending on what level of engagement they want to get into. There are structured programs, like I said, the 10-week program, which you can actually go into as a business leader, or you can have a specific designed program for you, depending on what the issue you're dealing with. I have seen people who just come because they say, for me, debt has become such a nightmare. And if you can actually help me to understand credit management, I'll be fine and I'll be okay. And that's okay. There's somebody who comes and says, I want to take a mortgage, but I fear. I don't understand how it works. And we actually sit down and we actually go through and they get to understand. And when we're looking at the mortgage, we're saying, do you want to buy a house? Okay? Because if you want to buy a house, you need to know what is the lender's requirements. Okay? What's the process of buying the house? Who is going to be involved? Do you want to build a house? Because in turn, the process will all be different. You need to understand what's the process that you have to go through. You know, the design part, the approval part, and who are the professionals you're going to work with. And if you're borrowing money, how do you actually organize to borrow the money? And when you borrow the money, how do you actually pay the money? So again, everybody depending on what their basic requirement is all about.
Yes. But here's the thing as well. There's a question that you're going to find that is very common in these areas, that if I want to start on personal finance, there are a lot of areas that I have to understand. What do I begin with? Where? There's some people asking those questions.
I think the first place you begin with is daily management of your finances.
Okay. It's the daily management of finances.
Just daily management. And that's basically very, very simple.
Yes.
Because let's not complicate things. Let's see, how do I manage my money on a daily basis?
Yes.
Because maybe I just put in money, and when I get into town, I see something, I just buy.
Yeah.
So you can actually be able to do your daily money management. How do you do the planning for the day? How do you actually make a shopping list before you go shopping? How do you do comparison shopping? Don't buy from the first shop. Maybe check out a few places. Those basic habits will actually inform you, and they will help you form a foundation from which you can build now to learn the bigger things.
Yes. Another question that you're going to find around that area is that people do understand that when it comes to money management skills, you got to be frugal. Just live the best you can, but still within your means. But then that's where another question comes from, that you can tell somebody that you're going to live frugal, but the understanding of frugal and actually meeting it on a daily basis is also another whole area that people need to understand. Do you have like a magic bullet to the living frugal way?
There's nothing like a magic bullet, but there's something we call smart living.
Yes.
Smart living is, life is not a rehearsal. So you cannot be mean to yourself and hope someday you're going to be generous to yourself.
Yes.
But at the same time, you believe in tomorrow. So you have a balance. Okay? You're living today, you're enjoying today, but you still have one eye ahead into tomorrow. And that is why we actually do something called goals. You set the goals of the things you want to achieve.
In the
tomorrow.
short term,
in the short term, and in the long term. Medium term,
Yes.
and the long term.
Yes.
So all that period, so that now you're very clear what is it I'm going to do. So yes, I have a mechanism. I've set my goals and I'm actually operationalizing them, but I'm still living today. So if my friends invite me for sherehe, I will not say I'll not come. I'll go to the sherehe. try. But I actually planned for it. Remember when we were talking about managing the money, the budgeting, we said you have a provision for an allowance, maybe just to take care of yourself, you know, and your things. But that does not mean you're not setting aside something to own a house one day, you're not setting aside something to own a property another day, so you can actually be able to manage that. You're managing it today, but one eye is ahead.
That's it. All right. Just before we get done with this conversation, I know people would really want to know how long a course, a full personal finance course is going to take at your academy, and how long then, and how much that will cost if they may want to take up that lesson.
If they want to come to the program,
Yes.
we actually allow people to come in for free for one lesson. We don't like people coming in into something they don't understand. So we give you 2 hours for free. Okay, that's free.
What do these 2 hours entail?
Okay, you just need to be there. At the moment, we're doing virtual programs.
Yes, yes.
So all you need to do is you need to indicate, I want to come. Okay? And we'll give you a chance. I mean, we can't give so many people a chance. So it is selective. We have to give a few people, and we spread it out. Now, if you come and you register into the program, the Wealth Creation Masterclass, which is designed to equip you with everything you need to learn about money management, is a 10-week course. But each week, it's not full-time. So each week you're putting in 4 hours.
Yes.
Okay? So you're putting in 4 hours this week, you're putting in 4 hours next week for 10 weeks. Now, in the course of that 4 hours, you get an opportunity to learn. You get personal questions that you're going to go and attend to, and you'll get a session with me as a coach when we discuss your own circumstances, just within the course of the week. So that when we're done with the 10 weeks, you actually come up with a personal financial plan. You've documented the things that you actually want to do, and for a 2-3 months period, we will actually give you the support just to make sure that you're going through. If you need linkages, if you need contacts, if you need professionals, we can do that. And we also run that program for people who are in the financial advisory business. You know, the people who are salespeople selling financial services, insurance, banking, microfinance, because for them it's critical that they understand for their own use, but they also understand for their own client, so that in turn they are not pushing products. They are addressing the concerns of their client. So even for them, it's actually another 10-week program that they go through. At the moment, what you get out of that program, you will actually get this beautiful book that captures all the things.
Which is exactly what I want us to talk about as we clear.
You talk about that. You will actually get a personal coaching session. You get the knowledge. There's actually a workbook for you to jot down your notes. Part of it are printed. The other part you're going to write yourself. And you get the coaching session. Eventually, you will graduate and get a certificate.
Fantastic. Can we touch, in just 1 minute, can we touch on exactly what is in wallet words?
Yes, we can touch what is in wallet words. I have been in this space of working with people and their finances for, I think, about 15 years now.
Yes.
And a lot of times people have said, why don't you capture those nuggets into a book? And I answered that call and actually got it down into this book. So in this book, which is a 7-chapter book, you will actually get to know the first thing, the psychology of money. Why you deal with money the way you deal with money. You need to understand your own psychology, your own money personality, and that becomes very helpful for you to know how you do your shopping, how you pay your bills, how you pick your investments, and how eventually you will end up in your money life. In the 2nd chapter, we actually look at just what you've talked about, money management. What are the various issues around money management that you need to understand, the money tools that you can do, the budgeting that you can be able to do. In the 3rd chapter, we actually look at goals and how you set goals so that you have clarity on how goals are being set. In the 4th chapter, we look at credit and debt, because nobody creates wealth without other people's money. But other people's money can take you the wrong route. So you clearly need to understand. So that even if one day you found yourself in CRB, we have given you the line, how do you get out of there? And how do you actually use debt to get things working? So that now when we're getting into the 7th chapter, I think we are wrapping up and we're saying, this is how you organize your finances so that you can actually be able to achieve the things that you're looking at. And this book is easily available. Somebody can be able to get it from a couple of stores in town. And if anybody got in touch with us on our website, pfa.co.ke, they can always get access to a copy of this book.
Pretty much. Bohomengari, Thank you very much for taking your time to visit us here at Look at Business.
Most welcome. I really appreciate it, and I'm sure somebody has learned something, but you can't learn in a day. Nobody went to a driving school one day, they learned everything. We went there a few more times. So for every individual who's listened to us, get yourself a book to read, register into a program, listen into a program, and this is going to make you better. Improve yourself. Nobody is perfect. We keep improving ourselves.
Zan, I can't say it any different. Thank you very much, Dan, for being part and parcel of today's show. You can actually take us live from the time that Mohamed Ngari came into the studio at Look Up TV across all your social media platforms. Once you're there, I mean, a comment, a like, a subscription, a follow back, that's what we do appreciate. Until tomorrow, I'll see you.